Have you ever been curious to imagine if the world you see around you isn't the only one that exists? What if your brain, yes, your brain, the very thing inside your skull, could be more powerful than you realize? We're exploring how neuroscience is uncovering hidden capabilities. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the twist. Neuroscience, quantum physics, and even ancient philosophy are all pointing toward the same mind-bending truth. Reality may not be as solid or as singular as we think. Today we're diving into the most ultimate question. Can your brain access alternate realities? Stay tuned, because the information we're about to uncover might just change how you see your own mind forever. Let's start with a fact. Your brain never directly experiences the outside world as you think it does or know of. In fact, everything you see, hear, taste, and touch isn't reality itself. It's a simulation created, built inside your head. Neuroscientists believe perception isn't about recording reality, it's about predicting it. Here's how it works. Light enters your eyes, sound waves vibrate your eardrums, nerve signals travel from your skin. But your brain doesn't just passively record this data, it interprets it, filters it, and constructs a model, a best guess of reality. Carl Friston's predictive coding theory shows that your brain constantly generates guesses about the world, then adjusts them with incoming sensory data. In fact, studies show only about 10% of what reaches your visual cortex comes directly from your eyes. The other 90%? That's filled in by your brain's own predictions. Think about your blind spot. Every one of us has a hole in our vision where the optic nerve connects to the retina, but you never see it because your brain invents the missing details. This isn't just imagination, it's your brain's version of reality editing on the fly. Neuroscientist Anil Seth calls this a controlled hallucination. The illusions like the rubber hand experiment or the famous invisible gorilla test proves how easily the brain can rewrite your experience. And here's the kicker. When you dream, when you hallucinate, or when you're deep in meditation, your brain uses the exact same neural machinery to create alternate worlds that can feel every bit as real as waking life. More of a dream world, if you ask me. From a neurological standpoint, your perception of reality is less like a camera and more like a movie your brain is producing in real time, creating alternate worlds. So the question you may ask yourself is, are those simulations limited to just products of imagination, or are there windows into something more? Find out more next. Dreams are the most familiar form of alternate reality. On average, you'll spend about 6 years of your life dreaming. That's nearly 2,000 full nights in worlds that don't physically exist. Here's what happens. When you dream, your prefrontal cortex, the logical, decision-making part of your brain, largely powers down. At the same time, your visual cortex and limbic system fire up, creating vivid imagery and powerful emotions. But here's the fascinating twist. In lucid dreams, when you become aware you're dreaming, fMRI scans show a spike in gamma wave activity, the same brainwaves linked to higher states of consciousness and problem solving. Some researchers even suggest lucid dreaming could allow us to train the brain like a simulator, solving problems, practicing skills, or even exploring questions we can't approach in waking life. And here's another fact. Studies at the University of Bern found that people practicing motor skills in lucid dreams can improve their performance in waking life. Even NASA has studied lucid dreaming as a tool for astronaut training, since the brain rehearses movements as if they were real. So, are dreams simply random neural noise, or are they windows into a deeper layer of consciousness? Now let's talk about psychedelics, a substance that alters perception, mood, and thought processes. They're sometimes called hallucinogens. Substances like LSD, psilocybin mushrooms, and DMT don't just distort perception, they radically reorganize the brain. At Johns Hopkins University and Imperial College London, researchers have found that psychedelics dissolve the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for your sense of self, or ego. When this system goes offline, the brain becomes hyperconnected, forming patterns of activity that don't normally exist. Users often describe experiences of traveling to other dimensions, meeting strange entities, or witnessing fractal universes. From a neuroscientific view, this is the brain exploring new configurations. But here's the curious part. Many users report remarkably similar visions, geometric patterns, tunnels, beings of light. Are these shared reports simply coincidence? Or could psychedelics be tuning the brain into some hidden layer of reality? Here's a striking fact. A 2021 study at Imperial College found that psilocybin increased global brain connectivity, essentially making distant brain regions communicate in ways they never do normally. Meanwhile, DMT has been shown to increase activity in the visual cortex, even with eyes closed, explaining why users see entire landscapes and entities. Even more surprising, clinical trials have shown that psychedelics can reduce symptoms of depression and PTSD by resetting brain networks, hinting that these substances may access parts of the mind that ordinary waking consciousness cannot. Dreams and psychedelics aren't the only way to enter alternate realities. Meditation, sensory deprivation tanks, and even near-death experiences have been shown to radically shift consciousness. In 2014, Harvard researchers discovered that long-term meditators could physically rewire their brains, increasing gray matter in regions linked to awareness and perception. How creative. Meanwhile, sensory deprivation studies show that when the brain is cut off from external input, it begins to generate hallucinations on its own, sometimes resembling entire landscapes or encounters with beings. And then there are near-death experiences. Patients revived from cardiac arrest frequently report leaving their bodies, moving through tunnels of light, or entering otherworldly realms. While neuroscience explains this as oxygen deprivation, the sheer consistency of these reports leaves an open question. Here's another fact. In 2018, a study in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience found that advanced Tibetan meditators reported out-of-body experiences under EEG monitoring, suggesting meditation may reproduce states that resemble near-death experiences. And in sensory deprivation experiments at the National Institute of Mental Health, participants often reported complex hallucinations within 15 minutes of silence and darkness, proving the brain generates realities when left alone. So, here's the mystery question. If all reality is already a brain-generated model, how can we truly know whether these altered states are just fabrications, or glimpses of something beyond, or are we tapping into hidden aspects of existence? Now, skeptics say this is just all brain misfiring. What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Before fMRI scans and brainwaves, ancient traditions were already hinting at the mind's ability to explore alternate realities. In Hindu philosophy, the idea of logos planes of existence suggests that reality isn't singular but tiered. Yogic texts describe meditation and deep states of samadhi as gateways to these alternate realms. Modern parallels. Studies have shown that advanced meditators can shift their brainwaves into unusual states like gamma synchrony, associated with heightened awareness and transcendental experiences. Buddhism goes further. It teaches that reality is Maya, a kind of illusion. What we see is just a projection, like shadows on a cave wall. Today, neuroscience echoes this idea. Our perception is a controlled hallucination created by the brain. Cognitive scientist Anil Seth famously said, "We don't passively perceive the world, we actively generate it." Could Buddhist monks have intuited this truth centuries ago? Gnostic, Sufi, and mystical traditions, visions of parallel worlds were described as gnosis, hidden knowledge. Across centuries and continents, mystics from different traditions describe remarkably similar experiences, visions of light, encounters with otherworldly beings, and journeys through multiple planes of reality. Scholars like William James and Carl Jung suggest these might reflect universal structures of consciousness, archetypes embedded deep within the human psyche. In Taoism and Vedanta, consciousness is viewed as fundamental to reality itself, not just a byproduct of the brain. Ancient sages describe states of expanded awareness where the self dissolves into the universe, a concept modern researchers link to altered brain networks during deep meditation. Philosophers from Plato to Kant have long argued that what we perceive is only a shadow of true reality. Plato's allegory of the cave suggested that humans see just reflections on the wall, while Kant proposed that the world we experience is filtered through the mind's own structures, a concept eerily aligned with modern neuroscience. Across time and cultures, the message is the same. Reality may not be singular, and your consciousness may be capable of touching realms we can barely imagine. So the question remains, how deep can your brain truly reach? Were the ancients simply speaking in metaphor, or were they pointing toward a truth that science is only now beginning to validate, that the brain might be both a filter and a gateway to alternate realities? Now let's turn to physics, because this is where things get wild. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, first proposed by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957, suggests that every quantum event causes the universe to split. Every decision, every particle interaction branches into parallel timelines. Right now, there could be countless versions of you watching this video, not watching this video, or living an entirely different life. Here's the strange part. This isn't just speculation. The math of quantum mechanics, especially the Schrödinger equation, works perfectly without assuming a collapse of the wave function. Everett's interpretation simply takes that math at face value, implying all outcomes exist simultaneously in different universes. We know that particles like electrons and photons exist in a superposition of states. They can be in multiple positions at once until measured. This has been demonstrated in the famous double-slit experiment, where particles behave like waves of probability until observed. When you add detectors, the wave collapses into a single outcome. And here's the unsettling question. What counts as an observer? Is it the measuring device, or is consciousness itself involved? Some interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the Copenhagen interpretation, imply that the act of observation chooses reality. Now, here's where things connect back to the brain, well, your brain. Nobel Prize winning physicist Roger Penrose, along with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, proposed a theory called orchestrated objective reduction, or OR. For precision, they argue that consciousness emerges from quantum processes inside microtubules, the structural components of neurons. If true, it means consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon, but they're not alone. Physicist John Wheeler proposed the participatory anthropic principle, the idea that the universe requires observers to bring it into being. In his words, we are not only observers, we are participators. What's even more intriguing, experiments in quantum entanglement, where two particles share information instantly across vast distances, suggest the universe might be more interconnected than classical physics allows. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but it has been repeatedly confirmed in labs. Some theorists speculate that consciousness might exploit these non-local connections. So, what does this mean for the brain? Let us know in the comments below. If the many worlds interpretation is true, then every thought, every choice might literally branch into new realities, making your brain not just a receiver of reality, but perhaps a navigator of infinite universes. So, can your brain really access alternate realities? From a scientific standpoint, the brain is a powerful reality generator. Dreams, psychedelics, and altered states show it can create vivid, alternate worlds. Quantum physics hints at a multiverse where parallel realities may exist, but yet, there's no concrete proof that the brain can literally hop universes. Most evidence points to internally generated simulations. Bummer. Yet here's the question. If everything you perceive, even this very moment, is already a simulation inside your brain, how can you ever be sure what's real and what's not? From a philosophical and mystical perspective, however, consciousness may not be confined to the brain alone. If that's true, then altered states could be glimpses into deeper layers of existence. And here's where it gets personal. When you dream at night, is that just your mind firing randomly, or is it another version of you living out a parallel path? If perception is shaped by the brain, how do you know you're not already in one of those alternate realities right now? And if ancient wisdom and cutting-edge physics are pointing in the same direction, what does that mean about the true nature of consciousness? Maybe the real question isn't whether alternate realities exist, but whether you're ready to notice when you're already inside one. Your brain may not be a doorway to other universes in the sci-fi sense, but it is a reality-generating machine that shapes everything you experience. And if reality is a construction of the mind, then perhaps exploring these altered states brings us closer to truth science hasn't yet explained. So, I'll leave you with this question. When you dream, meditate, or even imagine a different life, are you simply fabricating it inside your head? Or are you catching a glimpse of an alternate reality that already exists, or feeling like you're actual there? Maybe, just maybe, the truth lies in both. If this video expanded your mind, hit that like button, subscribe to The Curious Explorer, and share this with someone who loves to question reality. Because the more we explore, the more we realize our universe may not be the only one, but inside your own mind.